I'm Corbett Wall with DV Auction, here with your cattle market summary for the week ending May the 5th, where these shorts are smelling blood in the water now, just like a shark, and they will be coming after this market starting this week here. But such a topsy-turvy deal last week. You had your cash fat cattle market see the biggest gain in 1 month in history. So, you know, just straight up gaining big jumps, even more than when we saw our all-time record highs. We didn't gain this much ground this fast. But, you know, and then we got up through Wednesday and everything looked like roses, and then just started heading south just about as fast. But you look at the board, live cattle futures on June contract, Monday was up 10 cents, Tuesday up $2.92, Wednesday up the $3 limit, Thursday up $1.25, Friday down to $3 limit. Ending the week with June contracts at $128.30, which was up $4.28 for the week. Now feeder cattle didn't fare near as well. The May contract on feeder cattle, Monday was down 95, Tuesday was up $1.02, Wednesday was up $3.67, Thursday was down $5.02 with expanded limits there, and then Friday down limit $4.50 to end the week with May contracts on feeder cattle at $143.77. That's down $5.78 for the week. So they're going in opposite directions. But fat cattle market was just a rage. And through Thursday there, 137,800 head of negotiated sales in the 5-area feeding region. Spread this thing out with your spot futures market. It was tightening up to what cash was, but now it's just blown all to pieces. $19 basis almost on your spot June live cattle futures compared to what cash is. But this time you got to think that cash is going to drop and come closer to your board instead of vice versa like it did this last time. But your fats sold middle of the week there, 145 to 147. That was $7 to $10 higher than the previous week. Dress sales at $230 in the meat, $11 to $15 higher. Tyson was out front this past week, and that doesn't happen. Normally they're kind of in the back, and then they wait till the market gets established, and then they come up to where everybody else is trading. But they had sold so much product out front, and they need some cattle of a great choice. So they had to get out in the front, and so they could get the pick of the litter whenever they made some sales, and go through the show list and find some cattle that had some days on them, because the cattle that we're seeing sell here the last several weeks are so green, don't have a lot of days, and they're not great in choice, and if they've got contracts for so much choice product, they got to go get it somehow. But let's see what happens this week. It seems pretty obvious that the fat cattle market is going to be lower this week, but because these packers are going to start pulling their contracts now, so they won't show that they need a lot of cattle, and these feedlots got to decide what they're going to do. I'm sure most all of them are so current and green actually that they could go a week or two without selling any cattle at all and be just fine. Maybe they don't sell them a hoof. Make them pull all their contracts because they're still trying to fill those contracts that they wrote for that contract going out the back door. So maybe don't sell them any cattle, because they're sure going to want to take it back down this week, and you can be certain of that. But box beef cutout values were up big. The packers are having to try to force their customers to pay more so they can get out of the red ink and try to get their margins back right. But choice carcasses at $232.55, and that's on the average trade for the week, up $12.99. That's a huge gain on an average trade compared to the previous week. Select carcasses $214.81, up $8.68, and now we've got a choice select spread of $17.74, and it's obvious why we have that big spread there. But slaughter for last week, 612,000, probably better than what most people thought, and that goes to show that they've got to have a pretty decent slaughter to fill these contracts for down the line and for the Father's Day demand and Memorial Day grilling demand. At that 612,000 for the week, was down 12,000 from the previous week, but up 26,000 from the same week a year ago. Your actual steer weights, stressed weights, seem to have bottomed out just under 850 pounds, which is a whole lot lighter than what we've been killing them for a long time. But we're probably getting into some cattle now, because we were talking about getting into more market ready supplies in May. We're starting to get into them now. Cash feeder cattle real-time index on Beef Market Central, 149.05, up $8.07 than the end of the previous week. And that goes along with your regular trend there, because cash feeders sold $6 to $10 higher. So you can imagine there would be an $8 higher index value there. Calves are $5 to $10 higher, but that was just through Wednesday. Things really started shaking up on Thursday and Friday, with the board down so hard on feeder cattle contracts and everybody just real unsure of what's going on. And you can be sure that these Monday markets will be a foot lower, because everybody was just kind of losing their mind buying these feeder cattle, and now they're going to really tighten up, and these markets are going to be a lot lower. But you can expect some pretty decent receipts, because it reminds me of a story an old commission man told me whenever he was training to be a commission man and working the phones. And he was telling his customers, he said, you know, bring your cattle in this week, because I think the market's going to be good and it ought to be higher. And the guy that was training him said, why would they bring cattle in if they think the market's going to keep going up? But your commission men will be telling guys now, you need to get rid of these things while we still got as much market position as we do. So, you know, everybody waits till the week after the big high, and it'll sure be lower this week, but still a handsome price for most feeder cattle, and it will probably pull some cattle off graze out wheat a week or two early. And we've had some decent weather, and some places in the Midwest are trying to dry out a little bit, so they had a good weekend to get some cattle brought up and hauled into the sale, or get them ready for that. But look at an individual quote on Cattle Market Central there. Bluegrass Stockyard in Richmond, Kentucky, 10 o'clock Friday morning, had 178 steers, weighed 891 at $150 even. So from a home office here in Canyon, Texas, we'll talk to you on Wednesday.